I'd like to call the meeting to order. Board of Leavenworth County Commission. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, all three commissioners are present. I'd like to open up with public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address. Seeing none, we'll move on to administrative business. Mr. Lofferty, do we have any administrative business?
A couple of items. First one is the ad valorem tax discussion. We have in your packet just a copy of what the publication was for the ad valorem taxes this year, and by state statute we're required on the first Monday of August to discuss this, so I just wanted to go over real quickly. What has been proposed is the equivalent of a flat mill levy for Leavenworth County. A couple of reasons why we're proposing that. Obviously, when we meet at the public hearing, you can reduce the mill levy, but you cannot increase it. We're recommending a flat mill levy for the simple aspect of the new state laws that have put a cap on the mill levy. Any reduction then becomes our new base. Right. So the year going forward, then that would be your new base. And if we were, right now we're fortunate we had a good valuation, and that allowed us to have a little bit of increase in revenue. But if for whatever reason we had a drop or something like that, or it remained flat, we wouldn't be able to regain that if we reduce it this year. So that's the other reason why we're putting it in there as a flat mill levy. And as proposed, there is, we are budgeting to begin setting aside money to create a reserve fund for the county. If the budget is approved as presented, Jan, I think it's around $400,000 that we would start for a reserve fund. That would be unallocated funds, so that then the following year we would set those aside into a reserve.
You can use those for any sort of capital improvement, a new roof, you know, let's just say we would have had that money put aside, we would have been able to use that.
You have emergency expenditures that you could use it for, but primarily what it's for is if you have a downturn. So if something happens mid-year, like
I think I brought that up at one time,
a business,
and I was voted down.
If a business would close, or you have a significant hit to your sales tax for some reason, you'd have that reserve then to offset it, so you're not looking at mid-year budget adjustments. So, but that's why it's in there. Obviously, we're not asking you to make that decision today or anything. That's what the public hearing's for. But we are required to discuss it today, so I thought that'd be a good time to bring that up.
What's the exact dollar amount of a mill, one mill? The 500 and...
No, it's
600.
600?
637,000.
Yeah.
We had an increase of, we have about 4%, about a 3.5% increase in our valuation from last year. It was very good.
But with the state statutes, we don't really get to take advantage of that. What we get to take of the increased valuation, that we get to take advantage of increased valuation due to construction.
So it'd be about 2/3 of a mill that you want to put in reserve. Is that correct?
Something along those lines.
Okay. Okay.
And, you know, like Mark said, it's not a decision you have to make today. We just wanted to discuss it. I do have, you know how we bind the budgets each year? Those will be coming in this week, and you'll each have a chance. I'll give you each one of those, and you'll have time to review it before our budget hearing on the 17th.
Okay.
And if you have questions, you know, you don't have to wait until that meeting. You can come and ask me or ask Janet if you have specific questions individually. Obviously can't do it as a group, but individually,
right.
If you have questions about it, feel free to come and ask that before the meeting, so we can try to be prepared.
Okay.
I think I've already asked you a few questions.
May I ask a question, Janet? Looking at the notice of budget hearing, the second line is debt service. Current year estimate is $3,394,000, but for next year it's $1,523,000. If I'm reading that right.
Well, we really don't have a mill levy for debt service, but we still have to show our debt, and so that's where that comes from. That's the payments that will be due in 2018 for the money that we bonded with the sales tax. That's what that is. So we'll be paying the $1,500,000 next year for payments, which that money is generated from the sales tax.
Well, it just has dropped so much between 16, 17, and then 18.
I don't.
The second line
Second
says
page.
debt service.
Debt service.
Well,
That's
see, we
budgeted,
were making payments on the old sales tax, and so our payments were higher at that point. Whereas, we've got that all paid off. So now we're starting in on the new bonding that, the first one that took place was in 2015. That bond.
And we still have, Tonganoxie has a balloon payment on County Road 1.
Yeah, we
That doesn't show
have
in
our
debt
share
service,
paid
though.
off, but
And that doesn't
Tonganoxie
show up
doesn't
in our
have
debt
their share
service, that's
paid
just
off.
a that's a receivable
Right.
that we
They
have on the
put
books.
theirs out farther.
That's right. Tonganoxie, through the agreement that we had with them on County Road 1, still owes us $800,000.
Okay. But there's a balloon payment in 19, I believe?
Of $500,000.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions, Mark or Janet?
The other administrative business, Mr. Luchin had some information he just wanted to go over with you today. It'll be on next Monday as well when they do their quarterly update.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, David.
I wanted to provide the board with an update on the traffic control plan for the sunflower farm. Each one of you should have documents laying in front of you. Based on the meetings we had with other departments and outside agencies, I created this traffic control plan. I sent this plan out to 3 traffic control companies in the Kansas City area. 2 indicated that they will not be submitting a price. Thankfully, one of them has submitted a price. So I just wanted you guys look over this week. We can talk about it more on next Monday. It is a significant cost. KDOT and KTA both indicated they do not want these message boards out 24/7 for a whole month. So the plan is to put them up on a Friday, take them down on a Monday. So they're only out for the weekend. So the price I've gotten is per weekend, because we don't really know how many weekends this might last. So they did give me a per week price to do the work. So, if you have any questions this week after you look at it, just let me know. I'd be glad to assist, and we can discuss it further next Monday during our monthly report.
Okay, you only got one quote?
Yeah, the other 2 indicated that, both of them indicated their message boards were all tied up. They didn't have that
It
many
is
message boards.
construction season, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
There's pretty significant.
13 message boards and 10 type 2 barricades.
I guess, did you contact the one that's close by, the sign company that's close by in Eudora?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
They chose not to.
Really? Okay, well, that's just in their backyard.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, I did
But
contact them.
but like I said, not many companies have these many just sitting around in construction
Right.
season. Now, if it'd been the winter time, you could have probably got some response.
Busy time of year for them. correct.
Busy time of year, okay.
So if you have any questions on that this week, just please let me know, and try to.
Without the committee being here, I guess, well, it's awful late in the season for this, but I didn't know if anybody had contacted any shuttle company or anything that could set up in Tonganoxie and run a business or anything.
I have not. I think that was discussed, but then it's a matter of where you're going to park them in the city of Tonganoxie.
Well, it's not only that, it's how do you get that shuttle into the facility if
Yeah.
the traffic's backed up? That you can, then you're sitting in a shuttle for 2 hours rather than in your own car. And the shuttle company's responsible for you at that point too. So we weren't sure it would help alleviate a whole lot unless we could find a route that we could secure that only the shuttle could run, and we couldn't find anything.
Thought maybe get with the fair board to see if they could rent the fairgrounds or something on the weekends, something like that. Something to get them into Tonganoxie anyways.
Well, one of the routes, when we're trying to, westbound case or westbound I-70, we're gonna try to get them off at 7 Highway and then down 2440, so they come through Base or they come through Tongue.
Okay.
Whether or not they follow the signboards is another question.
Okay. All right, Dave. Anything else? All right, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. The commissioners had a chance to look at the minutes?
I would move approval of the minutes of August 3.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Okay. We're ready for the tax, ad valorem tax discussion. We got any more on that?
We're good with that.
We're done with that then?
We're ready for the canvas at this point, I believe.
Okay.
I thought maybe we might do things a little bit different this time. Instead of going through each one of the individual books, I would go over each precinct individually, as we normally do, and then we can sign the books at a different time. I thought that might speed things along just a little bit with the same results in the end. We had 1,914 people vote in the primary on August 1st. We had the primary in the city of Leavenworth for the city commission and the primary in the city of Tonganoxie for their city commission. Once the 10th person filed, that generated the primary. The top 6 candidates move on to the general election, which will be November 7th. In that election, it will be countywide because we will have each one of the cities will have their city races, plus we'll have countywide school board races. So it will be countywide. With the primaries, each of the cities are responsible for their costs. So we will turn around and bill the city of Leavenworth and the city of Tonganoxie for these costs. In the general election in November, the county is responsible for the full cost of that election. We did have one change that happened with this election due to some legislative action. Between the election and Friday, when we got the mail, there were 9 ballots that came in. And this last session, there was a law passed that said any ballot that comes through the mail that is postmarked on election day or before, those would be counted. And this time we happen to have only 9. I do think it can make a significant difference, you know, possibly in some of the bigger elections. But this time we did add 9 ballots to our count. There were no really close races between the 6th and 7th person, so I don't believe that we will have a recount involved. We do have 15 provisionals that we will look at counting. Altogether, this election we had 18 provisionals, 15 of which I recommend qualified due to the fact that they may have went to the wrong polling place or they weren't registered correctly at their address, but they were previously registered. Those rules are the same as we have had in the past, so I do recommend counting the 15 provisionals. So at this time, we'll just look at each precinct, which we're required to do. And first of the first precinct had 41 people vote, and that included the advance and election day. First of the second had 39 people vote. Second of the second, we had 76 people vote. Third of the second, we had 59 people vote. And I do think it's important to remember that this does include the advance, so we won't have to go over the advance separately. First to the third, we had 75 people vote. First to the fourth, we had 23 people. First to the fifth, we had 52 people. Second of the fifth, we had 48. Third of the fifth, we had 93. Fourth of the fifth, we had 75. First of the sixth, we had 96. Second of the sixth, we had 51. Third of the sixth, we had 48. Fourth of the sixth, we had 120. Fifth of the sixth, we had 178. First of the seventh, we had 49. Second of the seventh, we had 169. And third of the seventh, we had 276. And in the city of Leavenworth, with all those votes accumulated, our top 6 vote getters were Jermaine Wilson, Myron J. Mike Griswold, Mark Preisinger, Lisa Weekly, Charles Rainey, and Michael Bogner. So those 6 people will move on to the general election. In Tonganoxie, we have the Tonganoxie North Precinct with 199 and the Tonganoxie South Precinct with 147. With those 2 precincts, our top 6 vote getters were Chris R. Donnelly, Andrew T. Gilner, A.W. Rocky Hempel, Ryan Kettler, wait a second, I'm sorry. Let me start over there. Jamie Lawson, Lauralee D. Stevens, Chris R. Donnelly, A.W. Rocky Hempel, Andrew Gilner, and Ryan Kettler.
Now, Jen, this is the order that they...
Yes,
okay.
that was the
This last
order.
time was
Yes.
the order. Okay.
So I thought I should start
I was
over with
thinking
that.
when you started talking, I thought,
Yes.
don't seem like that's the right order.
That's right. We do have the poll books here. We saw no differences between the vote casts and the poll books, so we'll sign off on those poll books in a little bit. I am required to go down and count the provisionals, add them to the totals here, and at that time I can give you the exact totals and we can certify the election. Does anyone have any questions?
Is there any potential provisionals?
No, there's no potential that the provisionals will change. Between number 6 and number 7 in the city of Leavenworth, there was a 50 vote difference. And in Tonganoxie, between the 6th and 7th person, there was a 47 count difference. So, it'll take me just a minute to go down and run these provisionals through, and then I'll come back up and we'll certify the election.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Janet, approximately how long will it take?
It'll take me about, I don't know, 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
I was just wondering if we could get...
Oh, Mr. Weber's report?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure
Oh,
he'll...
absolutely. I mean, it'll take me long enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, thank you.
I'll be back up.
Ready for the appraiser's quarterly report.
Morning.
Good morning, Bob.
Right now our appraiser's office, we're busy doing maintenance reinspection required almost every year we do on 6th County, through the county once every 6 years. We've completed 2,748 of those properties out of 5,200 approximately that we have to do this year. We're also busy sales verification and building permits, collecting data and building permits. Sales verification, the number of sales we have, we received 922 through the first half of the year. That's about 3% increase over last year's. So those numbers will continue to rise. It's just slightly over last year. So those are keeping us busy. We have increased workload with those over the last few years. Out of those, the single-family sales, approximately 8.6% of those are previously foreclosed on by banks. That number has been coming down steadily. It rose obviously sharply during the recession. At one point, it was at 25%, and that's down again. It was 11.6% last year. So far this year, anyway. The number of building permits. Well, this is just number of single-family homes they put in there, not the total number of building permits. We have 113 through the first half of the year, compared to 99 last year, and you can see the numbers. And that has gone up again. In the breakdown, you can see where most of those houses are being built is in the Tonganoxie, Baser, rural area of the county. Leavenworth, Lansing just don't have that many active subdivisions that are being built in at this point.
Do you think
finished up, but you have questions?
What is the, I guess, the problem with being built in Lansing area then? Is it because of the sewer system that they're having issues with, or?
I really don't know. I mean, the market there is, they've been picking up, Leavenworth and Lansing's market is picked up some, but it's, lagged around the rest of the county. The southern part of the county picked up first, but they are now starting to pick up some for as far as the market. It's just, it takes a while to get subdivisions, and builders are very shy after what happened. And I'm sure banks are shy about lending money on subdivisions, and so it's just taking a while.
Okay. Just wondering.
Well, I guess in your opinion, do you think there is a shortage of building lots in any of these cities?
I don't.
I know it's not your area, but
Maybe there needs to be some annexation.
They put some more in
I don't know if Ken wants to.
Tonganoxie. Those were platted a long time ago.
right.
There's been some in Baser that have been platted for quite a while that they haven't put the roads in, so down there.
Well, yeah, no, Baser's growing. I mean, it's definitely. Some say it's the fastest city growing.
They had a lot of lots when the recession hit. They just sat there, but they're starting to use those up.
Okay.
There's still a few out there.
I think that's probably some of the reason why the growth is at least quicker is because they are sitting on platted subdivisions with streets in, utilities in already, that at this point it's more than likely the banks are trying to unload, or they've unloaded to a developer for a reasonable rate that are now being moved. So
Okay.
I think that's probably a lot of why you see the growth there, is they had existing lots available.
It costs a lot to put in some.
It does, and there is some risk involved, just like any other business. There's risk involved.
The other thing, we usually have our ratio study from the state at this point. We don't. They're behind in all their work there because they don't have any staff. But I did run one just to see where we're at as far as what we said as of January 1st of the values compared to sales that happened in the first half of this year. And median ratio at 96.2, that means we're generally we're at 96%. Our appraised values at 96% of the sale prices. And with the coefficient dispersion, that's a little harder to explain. Basically, that 6.2 0.2%, that's a dispersion above and below that median. That's well within guidelines. They actually set a floor on that, which is just to say it's, you know, it's about impossible to get below 5%. So you can in a homogeneous subdivision, but over all the properties, there's more differences in that between buyers and sellers and that sort of thing. So, you know, we're well within standards of that as this far. 96% isn't bad, but as the year goes on, if you start seeing lower and lower ratios, that means the market's going up, and then you have to adjust your values for the next year. That's all I have that. Any questions so far? Next,
Do you see our appraisals keep increasing?
yeah, we increased more this last year than we have in the previous
You
year.
know, with just, well, I mean, with your sales, your tracking and all that.
And that 96%, that's countywide.
Right.
And those areas we saw, if we run it just for like rural or in Southern Colorado County, that ratio will be lower.
Mhm.
A lot of influence there from Leavenworth and Lansing. But you still, even though you don't have as much building, because Leavenworth's the biggest town, that's where the bulk of your sales are at. Numbers wise.
Leavenworth County's still a good place to invest. So,
Rural homes are, just because of the scarcity of any time on the market, you have some very good sales out in the rural areas.
mhm.
Next item I have is, I have 3 of them. These are requests for board actions on disaster relief. KSA 79-1613 allows the Board of County Commissioners to abate taxes for homesteads that are destroyed or substantially destroyed after the first year. So prior to this law being enacted, your house was there on January 1, it burned January 2nd, you paid the whole year's taxes. So this is the only relief they can get if it burns after the first year. Basically what we've been doing is prorating the taxes as of the date of the fire or disaster. It's always been fire so far. First property is a single-family structure on 214th Street. It was estimated the value of it was $60,680 as of January 1st on the home. The replacement cost value of damage to $121. Appreciated cost estimate at $100,000. So it qualifies as 50% is what the law says of the repair costs. The assessed value of the land is $13,825. Building is $6,976. Assessed value is total of $20,803. Prorate. The rest of the year off, the building would be prorating off $5,487, and that would leave assessed value. This property has quite a bit of land with it. $15,316 for the property. We just needed to vote whether you want to. This structure, the owners informed us they plan on tearing it down. They did not live in this one. I think it was a rental. They live behind it in another.
So they won't
house,
be
but it was on a
rebuilding?
separate parcel.
Will they be rebuilding?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. But if they did rebuild, say they occupied it in December, they just start over again in January on taxes?
Right.
Okay.
Whatever's there January 1st of
Right.
each year is
Okay.
whatever,
Well, okay. So you need a motion to approve
Yes.
these? Okay.
Motion each one of these.
So moved.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 The second property is a single-family structure on Linwood Road. Had a fire on 4417 The market value was estimated at $158,960, and replacement cost value of the damaged components is $130,139. Appreciated cost of the bonus is $99,793. I believe the owners did live in this property. The assessed value of the land is $6,226. The building is $18,280, for a total of $24,506. Abating for 271 days of the home assessed value would be abating off $13,572, leaving a total assessed value of $10,934. This structure was, last I heard, was gutted, completely gutted, and they were doing repairs, I believe, to fix it back up. You know, so.
You need a motion on this one also?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 The last property was a multi-family structure at 624 Spruce Street. It was destroyed, substantially destroyed, I should say, February 18th, 2017. We have, I think, 3 insurance estimates on this. We had market value on a structure of $117,280. This is a duplex. The property owner has 3 bids to restore the damages. The bids range from $105,000 to $123,795. 2 of them, one was like $120,000. Yeah, I think I included all of them in my packet there. The assessed value of land again is $681. Building is $13,487 for a total of $14,168. Abating off, if you prorated, it would be $11,640 for 315 days, leaving you with a $2,528. We don't have much land value on this property. This structure was gutted still. The owners were not intending to fix it. They were trying to sell it in its current state. I think they tore stuff out, but it's still just kind of, you know, there's the walls kind of gone between the 2 units and that sort of thing. It's just it's an unlivable state at this point. The owners are out of town, and they didn't want to
Yeah, I noticed they
fix this up.
live in Braymore, Missouri. I'll make a motion to
Okay, Commissioner Holland made a motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 I guess, you know, don't get me wrong, I think this is a great law, but what would happen to our county if we had like a large subdivision destroyed by a tornado and all of a sudden we don't get that tax money off them homes?
The law does give you, and it does mention in there about finances, it does give the commissioners the option if you can't afford. That's the catch-22 of it. You have a Joplin type thing or something like that happen. Just
Or
when you need the
Greensburg,
money, are you going to lose it all? The cities in the county.
Yeah.
That is a decision that would have to be addressed at that time. It does leave the option up to you. It does mention because of funds, but then at the same time, you know, people can, you know, are having their homes destroyed too. So there's things to consider there.
No, like I said, it'd be devastating, but I guess that's not a FEMA qualifying event to reimburse counties for lost revenue on taxes. I wouldn't.
It'd be nice
I mean,
if they had money set aside,
Right.
you know, for this kind of thing, you know, or something. So.
You know, maybe that's what our reserve account's going to have to cover. So, okay.
Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Well, yeah, but it's happened around us.
Sure has.
The last item I have is contract renewal, contract or commercial appraisals. We've been able we've done this because it's cheaper than hiring a staff member to do it. $39,500 for Mr. Joe Roth. We have it's been here since before I've been here. So since 1997, for commercial data collection and evaluation in the hearings. It is hard to hire a full-time employee with the necessary experience. You certainly aren't going to get it for this salary and then plus benefits. It's considerably cheaper. We haven't had any problems. I've had this contract reviewed. County administrator and David Van Peers reviewed this contract. So it's been legally reviewed. Presenting that to be approved. We do not have, we've reduced the number of people in our office, significantly over the last 8-9 years. So we do need a contract.
Commissioners, have any questions over the contract?
No, we've used this gentleman for quite a number of years.
Yeah. Mr. Weber's happy, so.
Well, I sure want Mr. Weber happy.
That's right.
Yes. I move approval of the contract for the appraisals.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 You just need to sign this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next page, Commissioner.
Ready for GIS, or Janet, you want to get these signed off on? All right, that'll work. We're still on schedule, pretty good.
We'll have to go into session as the Board of Canvassers when we
Okay.
certify this.
We need a motion to go into the Board of Canvassers.
So moved.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 So we're going to certify the election for August 1st, City of Leavenworth primary and City of Tonganoxie primary, with Jermaine Wilson receiving 729 votes, Myron J. Griswold 555, Mark Preisinger 546, Lisa Weekly 541, Charles Rainey 474, and Mike Bogner 274.
Would you like for us to come down there?
No, it's fine. I'm just going to bring it up there. City of Tonganoxie, Jamie Lawson receiving 210 votes. Laura Lee D. Stevens, 138. Charles R. Donnelly, 121. A.W. Rocky Hempel, 117. Andrew Gilner, 100. And Ryan Kettler, 92. So if you would just certify the results.
I'll make a motion that we certify that.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Some
So
of
if you
those
make this
voting in the
signature-
city of Leavenworth are awful close.
Yeah.
We ended up with a 10.27% turnout by the time.
Maybe
we-
one of these days we'll be able to vote on our phones and we'll have a larger turnout.
How did that compare to the last
And
primary?
that's
No, we
sad.
haven't had a primary in
Yeah.
quite a while.
It's
It
probably
compares to 2015's general about the same. They had about a 10% and we just had a little bit over. Now, I'm going to leave the books. We still have to sign those, but we
Okay.
can do those.
At our leisure.
Yes.
You want us to come down and do that?
No, I'll just leave them here for you, Clyde. I just thought it would make it easier for you guys today. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll make a motion.
Here it is, the Board of Canvassers, and go back in to regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 We're back in regular session and we're ready for Mr. Culbertson's GIS quarterly report.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
For the last quarter, besides spending about 70% of our time constantly maintaining hundreds of different GIS layers as the changes happen, I'm reporting on just some of the more interesting things within the last couple of months. We delineated any and all changes to the NG 911 address and street map layers. Those are the maps we keep up for the state NG 911 project, plus our own Sheriff's Department dispatch. Actually uses another software called SunGuard because we're part of the MARC region. So we've already been doing what the NG 911's implemented for the rest of the state for about the last 15 years. So we have actually two separate 911 layers that we maintain, one for our sheriff and one for the state. We assisted the cities with some new address assignments. I've developed a working rapport with all the cities whenever they have new subdivisions or new construction, and they have a problem figuring out what the address should be. They'll call us and we'll help them figure out what fits the 911 grid so they don't create any bad addresses out there. The city of Leavenworth, we actually have a dynamic link. They maintain all of their own NG 911 maps, and we link up to them every night via our server. So we're actually maintaining one NG 911 map, which includes all the county and all the cities, but the city of Leavenworth does their own changes. And nightly we pull those changes over. The rest of the cities, we do the changes for them. We created new patrol maps for the new sheriff's deputies. Whenever they get new patrol cars or new deputies, we supply all the maps inside the vehicles. Same with the ambulance and fire trucks. So whenever they get new people or new vehicles, we print out all the maps they need to have on board. We calculated or created 1,000-foot radius school zone maps for district court. Whenever they have drug-related cases, the penalties are different if it's within 1,000 feet of the school. So we created a map that'll easily show them when they're working on cases, whether that's in the 1,000-foot radius of any school or not, and daycares also are on there. They landowner acreage percentages for a protest case for planning and zoning. When they have a protest come in for any certain thing that they need to know how many owners within the 1,000-foot radius make up 25%, so they can see whether they have to proceed to a hearing or not. So we calculate those percentages of acreage for them. Met with the census folks in preparation for the 2020 census poll. That's coming up pretty quick. We always get together with them and make sure all the addresses they have are good, and if they're missing any addresses, we fill in the blanks for their field crew maps that they go out in the field with to actually get the count done. And we added new fire hydrant locations on our fire hydrant layer. Whenever there's new subdivisions come in, they usually add several fire hydrants, so we add those to the fire hydrant map.
Now, is that up to us or is that up to the water district?
It's a little bit of both, depending on where it is. If it's in the city, then the city water usually.
Because I know our water district that we're both on.
12.
Yeah.
Ours are 12.
And they don't use fire hydrants.
We don't have 12s. There's some, our fire hydrant layer is not 100% of all the hydrants because some water districts refuse to turn that information over. We have drove around and picked up what we can see.
They use what they call cleanouts, and they tell everyone they're not fire hydrants.
Right. And so we have a separate map layer for cleanouts too.
Okay.
And the fire chiefs have all those, so they know, well, we could use a cleanout.
I mean, they still can use the cleanouts because the pressure of water is there, but it's just not a traditional fire hydrant.
Exactly, and that's why we put those on the hydrant layer for the fire department, so they'll know where.
Yeah, just so they know that when they go out there, that hey, that's not a fire hydrant.
Yeah, exactly. We met on site with Lansing Fire Chief and showed them the new mapping software changes. they bought our same mapping software that we have, and Rick Hume out there has the software on board all his vehicles, and so we go out and when there's any new map changes, we'll help him figure out what those are to make sure he keeps his fire maps up and running. Traffic count map layers we updated for Public Works. Basically, we show their technicians how to take the information like the counters and turn that into a map layer. So they can use that and we publish that on our web map too. We assisted registered deeds with parcel research on several problem parcels. They have to log every deed that comes in, and they have to know what book to record it in. Sometimes if they get a bad legal, it's hard to figure out without maps. So sometimes they'll call us and have us help them figure out where exactly this legal description went wrong. Created a new bus route maps for Tongi School Transportation Coordinator. Since I wrote this quarterly, we've done probably half the schools. When it's this time of year, they get a list of all their new students and existing students, and they map out what their most efficient bus routes would be. So they use our GIS to help them figure that out. Working on lead content drinking water maps for Rural Water District 5. I think this came down from the state for all water districts. They have to determine which houses are highest at risk for having lead content in their drinking water. The biggest cause of that is, I think from 1960 to 1980, they used lead in the solder for copper pipes. So we were able to take information from the appraiser's office, coordinated with our parcel maps, and we can give them back a list of all the houses that were built between 1960 and 1990. And then that gives them a starting list to go check and do water samples at those houses. We're also currently delineating the current boundary for Rural Water District 9 from their customer database. A lot of these water districts have changed through the years, but they didn't actually do the legal documentation that they were supposed to file. So we're going back and cleaning those up. So we're helping them figure out which customers that they're serving water to that aren't legally part of their district, and vice versa if they traded off some parcels to other districts. So we're working with most of the water districts to come up with a new boundary that describes what they're actually serving. Statutory-wise, we're keeping the appraisers, ownership, ag use, and soil maps current. And budget-wise, we're well within our budget for the year.
I want to ask a question on water districts. Are they, when they expand their district, are they allowed, or do they have to get permission from another district if they have to cross that district to get to theirs? Do they just ask for permission, or do they have to come to the board?
They're supposed to come to the board, I think, first, the county commission board, ask for permission, and then work with the other water district to coordinate.
Yeah, because that's happened in our water district, and
and then they're supposed to record something in the rest of the deeds saying this is our boundaries.
Well, and another case that happened in our district was that one of the other districts out this way has decided that there's only 2 meters down here, and it would be advantageous for us to take them over. And so they said, would you take these 2 meters over, because it's going to cost us so much money that it wouldn't be economically for our district. So I think that happened, and I just kind of wanted to know the process of it.
And that's exactly how all these boundaries got inaccurate. They didn't file the paperwork to do that. They just
that's what I was wondering.
You're supposed to have an annexation and a de-annex, and you're supposed to do a public notice and have a public hearing, and the board approves it.
And over the last 20 years, that didn't really happen very
much. We still got a lot of vacant ground that no water district has. That we need to encourage that to get filled in some year.
When Pat Hurley was here, and I think the president of Commerce Bank come in here, and I've talked with him on, that's exactly what he wanted to do. There's a vacant area down in that area, and people were just on wells, and they wanted to service that area for rural water district.
Yeah.
And I guess they were wanting to know if this was several years ago, if the county would be in favor or against it. And I said, well, of course, serving water to our constituents would be, I think, a good thing.
Yeah, so that's the stuff we're working on with all the districts, is getting the boundaries cleaned.
I know Pat Hurley and myself, and can't think of his name, but
On the water department.
no, it's
Oh, Commerce.
he the president of Commerce Bank,
President?
President.
Bill.
Bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's.
I don't know why I know his name very well, but I just couldn't think of it. Bill Petrie. We had a meeting, in fact, in here, and discussed this situation.
Yeah. So that's what we're trying to do, is get out to file a new boundary description that accurately depicts
Yeah.
exactly where the customer is. That's all I have.
Well,
Okay.
any
Jeff?
questions for Jeff?
You say working on lead content in drinking water maps. Who comes up with the information on that? Who?
The water department's going to test their water, but they needed a list of who to check. So we created a list for them based on what the appraisers had for year builds and our ownership parcel map. So we're able to pull the attributes from the appraiser's office and create a map for the water district to show them, these are the houses you need to check. And they were houses that were built when they were using lead, solder, putting copper pipes together. So they're going to go in and physically do water tests and then tell the people whether they have a problem.
That's kind of a iffy.
We again, our water district, I think most water districts are mandated by the state to check their water and turn a sample in. What is it, once a month? Doug, you know, on your district? I can't remember.
Well, but I mean, we're just spot checking homes.
Right, I know. But I think as a
But he's
water
trying to
district-
create a map that shows the houses that were built during the use of the lead solder.
Right.
And then they can go on and check them.
Is that what you're asking, Clyde, or were you asking something
Well, I'm just kind of.
He's concerned, I think,
Concerned about
because
the
of
lead.
lead.
Yeah, we're checking.
Which we
for
all
lead.
are. We all ought to be concerned about lead in our water.
But it's
Yeah.
just for checking and recording it.
else? Yeah, and the water districts have a big interest in that because
They
houses
should.
aren't required to have back pressure valves yet.
Backflow.
So
Yeah.
if somebody has a lead problem in their house and then you get a low pressure problem, their water gets siphoned back into the public side of it. So it's pretty important to
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Not
you.
just for the people living in that. Yeah.
Any other questions, Mr. Culbertson?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're ready. We're running a little behind, but we're ready for Adult Community Corrections quarterly report and approval of the grant. Good morning, Megan.
Our fiscal year starts July 1st, so we've done a lot of training starting July 1st. So under personnel, myself and Rhonda have completed the workbook and reports training in Topeka. I completed a wellness training around the 1st of June. That wellness training really kind of focused on officer burnout, retention with staff, making sure that we're keeping our staff as safe and healthy, just like we're asking our offenders to be safe and healthy and the community to be safe and healthy. I am on my first week of the Offender Workforce Development Specialist training. I completed that the middle of July. I'm in the process of doing my practicum for all of that, so I'm doing all the homework and report work for all of that. I go back in the middle of September to do my week 2 of that training, and then I finalize and graduate that training in November. I completed an interstate compact webinar training, again, because the fiscal year starts July 1. A lot of the interstate laws change for transferring offenders from different states to different states due to residency and employment. So again, the new laws and rules came out to July 1, and we completed a training on that on the 26th. Again, my staff participated in the safety of the Justice Center training held by the Sheriff's Department. That was during the middle of July. Corey and Jamie attended a Batterers Intervention Prevention Summit in Topeka, which really focused on the proper identifying behaviors of batterers so that we can work on them with our clients to prevent future charges or future issues in the homes. Again, with a lot of the new laws at the state of Kansas, our certification for the LSIR, which is our risk needs assessment, they've changed a lot of that. Some of the terminology, language, and timeline of the questioning was being reviewed by one of the universities that we do a collaboration with the Department of Corrections. And all of that took implementation effective August 1st. So we all had to be certified in the new process of those assessments to be able to get them full-blown in our office on August 1st, which myself, Jamie, and Corey all did complete those certifications. And then all staff in my office became members of the affiliation of the American Corrections Association for Corrections Professionals, which again is to help with the wellness and protection of the staff. There's an additional insurance that's tapped onto that, so if an officer is hurt in the field doing home visits for any reason, insurance would also help cover any expenses that would be accumulated through those. So I felt like that was a very good program to get my staff involved in. And it also gives them reading and different ways to find relaxation techniques through email. So as far as, again, for the state of Kansas with the Department of Corrections, again, our fiscal year just started July 1st. All of our end of the year quarterly reports were due July 31st, including our revocation tracking form, which just shows the actual offenders that are sent to the Department of Corrections and what services were provided to them throughout their time on probation. At a county level, we attempted to have an advisory board meeting on the 18th of July, but we did not have enough to meet quorum. So again, later on towards some of our budgets, a lot of the voting has been done through email. So that's why today some of the documentation has been provided for one approval and signature. We're waiting on other votes for another one, but I can go over that in just a little bit. Again, we're still working on our policy and procedures. Again, the rough draft has been completed, but we're still fine-tuning them and presenting those to our staff and the advisory board for approval. Again, through the advisory board, we have the city of Leavenworth is appointing one new board member, because we did have a board member resign, and they are in the process of reappointing 2 board members. So all of that should be voted in through our next meeting, which is in October. I did have our one-on-one meeting with the county administrator on the 26th, where we kind of went over some of our personal goals as well as our agency goals. And again, we're starting to implement some of those things discussed in that meeting. We again complete the weekly updates, and I joined the Suicide Prevention Committee and the Leavenworth Council on the Child Abuse Prevention. I joined both of those this past month. The budget for the Department of Corrections awarded us $232,640.45, which is actually higher than what they allotted originally for us when we found out at the end of February. It's about $22,000 more than what they allotted us, so that was kind of a joyous reward, I should say. For our behavioral health grant, we were awarded $41,990.25. This is about $20,000 less than what we asked for, so our budget actually does balance out this year. From what I've heard through conversation with the Department of Corrections, with the behavioral health grant, they're really focusing on getting internal house programs that staff do. And again, that was my whole proposal to the Department of Corrections. So we've actually met with the Lansing Parole Office last week to really start the process of the referrals, as well as the locations and the supplies and who's going to facilitate what program. So we met with them last week, and we have a follow-up meeting with them on the 17th to really kind of see how the progress flourishes with all of this. As previously stated, the carryover budget, reimbursement budget is still waiting for approval. As of this morning, we were at 7 votes, and we need 8 to be able to have it approved. I do know Judge Sumby's in the middle of a jury trial, so I'm assuming that once he gets a break, he'll be able to maybe look over some of the documentation. But I do know he's in a jury trial starting this morning that I have to testify at 2:30 this afternoon. So, and then our behavioral health grant, which is the revised, again, where we have the $41,000 that was awarded to us, is attached also for approval and signature as well. And again, just the basic breakdown of our agency again, our numbers, which is our annual daily population report, was attached. It is the color coordinated one. As you can see, closing out the month of June, we were at 97 offenders. Those are active offenders. The population has gone down over the course of the past few years, which makes the caseload much more manageable in our agency. We're actually able to offer these programs to the offenders and provide it to them at a frequent service, which is, again, that's why we're seeing the behavior change and the caseload size go down. Again, there's the breakdown of what our caseload size looks like. Corey's at 41 active offenders. Jamie's at 39 active offenders, and I currently have 22 active offenders. Our discharges, we had 9 that were discharged over this quarter. 5 of them were successful, and none of them were unsuccessfully closed by the courts, which means they weren't sent to prison. However, we did have 5 that were sent to prison over the course of the last quarter. Most of those are due to new charges being committed. And then we did accept 27 new cases this quarter, and then we've also had 8 transferred in from other agencies for a total of 35 new offenders this quarter. So again, we're increasing that population. Again, like I spoke, we had a lunch and learn with the parole office to really start working on those collaborations for the new programmings that we're going to do in our office. A large push on the parole side is having offenders be employed. So again, tied back to the training that I'm participating in Topeka, which is the offender workforce, we're really going to try to start getting involved a lot more with the workforce. In fact, I just called them this morning to try to schedule a meeting to really kind of see where we can start pinpointing careers instead of jobs for offenders, so that maybe we can again see the crime rate go down, because if they're involved in something that they like and they get paid for, then hopefully they'll not have idle hands, which normally causes more problems. And then again, just the goals of the agency is we're still reviewing those policy and procedures. I'm hoping by the next 2 or 3 months we can really have those implemented into our agency. We're completing personnel appraisals, and that actually is scheduled for this week to finalize those. And then again, just the final setup of the Thinking for a Change, the SAP, which is the Substance Abuse Program, and then the Job Club, which again is set up to kind of start the whole brainstorming idea again for August 17th. That's all I have.
Megan, does the Leavenworth area, do they provide enough job opportunities for these people?
They do. We have certain agencies that do hire convicted felons. The problem that we're seeing, though, is that our agency is not the only one that needs employment. We have the federal prisons that are looking for employment. You also have the different levels of probation. So at any point in time, there's 7,000 convicted felons looking for a job in our community. So it's a little bit more difficult to find those employments that help with the reduction of retention and again, being able to keep offenders motivated so that it's not just seasonal work, trying to find them where it's not just construction or landscaping. It's something that they can find a little bit more long-term.
Megan, please repeat for me, how many offenders are there out there looking for work?
Usually on average, they say in this community, there's about 7,000 convicted felons looking for employment.
You mentioned the workforce board. When they go out to apply for a job, do they have to reference this in their application?
For the state of Kansas currently, yes. There is in most applications a box that says, have you been convicted of a felony, misdemeanor, or relatable offense? In Missouri, they just passed the law that says that they don't have to disclose their criminal history anymore. We encourage it as part of this training just because, again, a background check is going to be ran for most employments. So it's kind of a catch-22, especially in Missouri, where we get offenders employed, but then when a background check is ran, then they're terminated. So, but again, we provide services, and I'm working with the workforce on how to overcome some of those questions rather than lie or get frustrated because they get fired.
I was going to say that there hasn't been hardly any discussion on the workforce board about offenders. It's more about creating jobs and putting people in certain seats and
Employment's very important.
Yes.
I mean, it's
and the rehabilitation it is.
Well, and again, meeting with the regional director for the parole office, or for the parole region, she said that there's been studies with the Department of Corrections that completely correlate offenders going back to prison to employment. They said that's the highest reason or domain that the offenders return back to prison. So again, if we can facilitate some programming, incentives, job club to maybe prevent that the best way we can, then hopefully we'll see some of those numbers go down. So
I'm sure this board would support anything you can come up with, whether it's a committee or something to help, you know.
Well, like I said, I am trying to meet with the director of just the Workforce Development Center here in Leavenworth. She's out of the office currently this week, and return is undetermined at this point. But they said that I could meet with the Johnson County Regional Director, and I was a little more persistent in wanting to meet with this area director because I feel like it would benefit more this area rather than the Johnson County area. So, so like I said, I'm hoping to have a meeting here within the next couple weeks so that we can really start having those program conversation on the 17th of where all this looks like with the parole office.
And there is also a workforce director that you could meet with.
I think I tried to call them this morning.
Okay.
She was out of the office. So.
Okay.
There are incentive programs for employing felons, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. There is a tax break for some employers up to almost $1,200. We're also looking at my agency becoming bonded so that, again, if we have offenders that have certain level of felony convictions that go into homes and something happens, it's almost kind of like an insurance company. But we're looking at the bonding process even through our own agency to, again, kind of help some of those employers have that reassurance of things as well. So again, with being employed as a convicted felon, they get some incentives on child support issues and other areas. So it is pretty beneficial to have offenders be employed. It's just now keeping them employed is where my focus is hopefully going to be towards. So.
Okay. Right. So you need a motion to sign this behavioral grant? Or?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Anything else?
Nope, I just need it signed, please.
Oh. That's the only one?
That is.
All right, thank you.
very much.
Anything else, Mark? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Voting, aye.
Aye.